Hi, I'm Melissa Simpson, and I'm with the International Left-Hand Path Consortium, which will be April 8th, 9th, and 10th. So buy your tickets now. And I'm here with Rachel Summers. And thank you for coming, Rachel. I greatly
Thanks for
appreciate
having
it.
me. Thank you.
So now you've got 3 books.
Yes.
One that's already out, 2 that are coming out. And so tell me about the first one. What's the title again?
Condemnation with an A.
Okay. And how did you come up with the name Condemnation?
I don't know exactly when I thought of that. I think it was probably from a Depeche Mode song, Condemnation, that's spelled correctly. But I have kind of had imaginary soundtracks for all the books that I write, and that was in one that's been shelved that will make an appearance at some point. But I think that's probably where I got the idea.
Interesting. So now, tell me about Condemnation.
It's about Joan of Arc and Bluebeard, but it's set today, and her name is Joan Archer. I had to change it a little bit. And she has a Harley instead of a horse, and she leaves from Atlanta and goes to New Orleans and does all of the historical episodes superimposed onto biker culture.
Interesting. Now, you did research for this.
Yes.
So what type of research did you do as far as the biker culture is concerned?
I worked in a Harley shop for a year and would bring homemade baked goods, and that is the surefire way to get bikers to tell you stories.
Interesting. So what type of stories did they tell you?
The one that sticks out the most is this old biker. I'm not going to say his name. I don't think he would appreciate that a whole lot. But he always had some great ones. That he came up to my desk one day and just munching on cookies, and he told me so-and-so was sleeping with so-and-so's wife, and he blew him right off of his bike. All that was left was his flip-flops. And I'm like, all right, awesome.
Interesting.
But it was things like that all the time. They would just stop by and start chatting.
Well, that's fascinating.
Yeah, all the while I'm like researching with 15th century trial records and other Joan of Arc books and whatnot, and they would tell me these stories. I'm like, this just fits perfectly right here.
So now, trial records. You actually looked up the trial records of Joan of Arc?
Yes, it's very easy to do.
How?
Her and Bluebeard, they're online.
Okay.
Even translated. You can get the original languages if you prefer, but they took records of basically trial minutes like they do now, and you can read those.
Interesting. Now, you mentioned something about Bluebeard and his trial record.
Yes. He was one of her generals.
Okay.
A lot of people don't know that. His real name is Gilles de Rais. He was a very high-class nobleman at the time. And he fought with her, but after she was executed, he went maybe a little crazy. It's hard to say. History doesn't judge, but he got into necromancy and alchemy and was accused of murdering maybe 200 children.
Wow. Somewhere
around that neighborhood. I'm not sure that I believe any of that because no one complained about him until the Inquisition told them to complain, which is suspicious at best. And he also had some of the most strategic lands in France that were already just divvied out to other noblemen before he was even arrested.
Okay.
So I really don't believe a lot of the charges.
Interesting.
He was definitely a drama queen, though. That is for sure. Very theatrical. Like, he made a production of his own death.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Very Catholic.
Yes, I can understand that. Now, you've got 2 other books.
Yes.
That you're working on, and they're both going to come out in November. So tell me about the first one.
The first one is called The Twisted Rib. The name for that one comes from a Jewish legend that has Adam's rib that was removed to make Eve as being deformed somehow.
Okay.
So it was called The Twisted Rib because that's what's wrong with women. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't believe that.
I don't either, but it made a great book title.
There you go. There you go.
And the book is about biblical characters, all female, so it fit.
Okay, and what's the book about?
It's about a whorehouse. It's also set today, kind of a spin-off of the Joan of Arc story. The Bluebeard's execution scene is actually the opening scene for The Twisted Rib.
Okay.
Mary Magdalene sees that as she's driving home, and it reminds her of when Jesus was executed. Although his name is Joshua in the book, because that was his real name anyhow.
Okay. Interesting.
But yeah, it's set today, and all the characters are females from the Bible.
Very fascinating.
And they all work in the whorehouse.
Well, that's interesting. And you mentioned something that involves sex magic.
Yes.
How so?
That figures largely in the book. They're all witches, for lack of a better term.
Mm-hmm.
They have altars, statues in their rooms. They do sex magic on their clients.
Okay.
It's all like a healing process.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Fascinating. And so you've got a third one that's coming out in November.
Yes.
So tell me about that one. What's the name?
That one is called Godless. It is told from the perspective of one of Bluebeard's victims. Mm-hmm. She had some issues after she was nearly murdered, of course. She was only 9 when it happened. Mm-hmm. And she is in a mental hospital telling the story of a 17th century possession, which she superimposes onto what's happening to her in the hospital.
Interesting. So it's about possession,
Mm-hmm.
mental hospitals.
Yes.
Fascinating, fascinating. So Rachel, you're going to be presenting
Yes.
at the International Left Hand Path Consortium. What do you plan on talking about?
I'm hoping to do 3 discussions based on the 3 novels that I'll have out by then. And it will be interactive. We're going to pull out the trial records. We'll pull out modern day depictions of some of the characters. Mm-hmm. Hopefully get everybody involved. We're going to talk about bikers' rights, all sorts of good stuff.
Bikers' rights?
Yes.
Interesting.
There's a lot of discrimination still. I mean, just, look up Waco, Texas and all the nonsense that's been going on there. We'll talk about that.
Fascinating. I can't wait. Now, you had a dream when you were, 3 years old?
3 and 4, it happened recurring.
Now, what was this dream?
I was in heaven, I guess, still a little girl, and I went into this cave behind a waterfall, and Satan was there, only he was like my pal. We were buddies, and he told me that he wasn't the bad guy and that he wanted me to tell his story. So that's why I write.
Fascinating. Mm-hmm. Very fascinating. I don't think many people can say they've had Satan come to them in a dream.
Probably not.
But no, that's awesome. So has it allowed for you to not live in fear?
Absolutely. Other people are constantly doing protection spells against evil, this, that, and the other, and I'm like, what are you talking about? There's really nothing after you, just calm down.
Yeah, exactly. I can see that.
So I've always been very relaxed about that sort of thing, and it just doesn't bother me at all.
Okay. Now, you went to Christian schools.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
It was interesting. My family's not religious, but the public schools where we lived were not good at all, so I ended up in private school, which was Christian. And it gave me a different perspective on things, not being religious at home, but then having to go to school and hear it constantly, which is probably why I ended up majoring in religious studies and trying to figure these people out.
I see.
But it wasn't a bad experience per se. But there were some people there who needed to just calm down. They were giving their own religion a very bad name.
How so?
Just being nasty. Like, you can't do this, can't, no. That's just not a good way to deal with people.
So you
And then constantly instilling fear. You have to do this or you're going to go to hell.
Right.
I'm like, what are you talking about?
So they were constantly, giving you the idea of
Yes.
abstinence.
Yes, for one. And then this is the right way, this is the wrong way. And I don't believe that there is a right or wrong way. I think there's just different ways.
Okay.
And the whole Christian story never sat well with me. It makes no sense at all.
Okay. So now, of course, you belong to our group as far as the Left Hand Path Consortium is concerned.
Yes.
And what led you to join a group?
I was just playing around on the internet one day and I saw it and I said, oh, that sounds kind of cool. So I joined.
Interesting.
I'm not a group person, but it's nice to have kindred spirits around and like-minded people. So I thought I would try it out. And I'm glad I did.
Well, good. I'm glad you did too. Absolutely. So now with having this dream in your past and being in the Left Hand Path group that we have, how has it made a difference in your life?
Yes.
How so?
It's kept me true to myself, I guess you could say, and I'm happier for it.
What do you mean by true to yourself?
I went through a period in my 20s where I was, I guess, trying to grow up, for lack of a better term, and I kind of got away from who I really was, and that didn't work out so well. So I had to come back to who I really was, and that person is, you know, tattooed and likes heavy metal and is a naughty girl, and that's just me. And I have to be me. I'm happier, and I'm healthier, and it's a good thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, what type of magic, if at all any, do you practice? And what type of results have you seen as well?
I'm very informal as far as magic and ritual goes. I love candles, and I'll meditate. Really, that's about it. I go on walks a lot, and I'll talk to trees. They talk back.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. So what?
Not all, mostly oak trees.
Oak trees. What is it
Yeah.
about oak trees?
I don't know.
Okay.
They just grab my attention, and then I usually will touch them, and like, bam, I get a good story.
Well, that's fascinating. Hopefully you've used them in your books.
Yes.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Joan Archer gets a story at Oakland Cemetery, actually,
Okay.
the foot of an oak. That was one of mine. If there's a dream or some little side story in the book, it was something that happened to me, most likely.
Okay. Now, you're going to be selling your books at the conference,
Yes.
correct? Good. So there'll be plenty as far as people, if they want one, they can come and get
Yes.
it.
Yes.
And how else can they get them?
On Amazon or at Phoenix and Dragon Bookstore.
Fascinating. That's great. So basically, if I wanted to get a book, I just go on Amazon and look
Yes.
up your last name.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. And
Sometimes when you type in Rachel Summers, you'll get X-Men stuff. Because she's one of the characters on X-Men.
oh, I didn't even think about that.
I didn't know that until I Googled myself. And I was like, whoa, I'm an X-Men. That's awesome. But yeah, just filter that out. Put the book title in there.
So now you have 3 books: Condemnation,
Yes.
Twisted Rib, and Godless.
Yes.
Okay. So if they wanted to, look those up, they could most likely find them.
Right. Twisted Rib and Godless are not published yet. But they will be in the next few months.
Okay.
And I'm trying to get a nonfiction book out about Mary Magdalene as well.
Fascinating. That'd be
It kind of
great.
goes along with the Twisted Rib.
Yeah, that's very fascinating. So now, this possible book that you were thinking about doing, because I'm very curious as far as Mary Magdalene is concerned. How are you going to portray the character?
It's already written. It was basically my master's thesis. I'm just going to rework it for a non-academic audience.
Okay.
It's 3 parts. It talks about her canonical character, her Gnostic character, and her medieval character, which has absolutely nothing to do with the Bible.
Interesting. Interesting. So you're going to give a better perspective as to Mary Magdalene and
Yes.
what she actually represented.
Right.
Fascinating. I can't wait for that to come to fruition. Again, I'm Melissa Simpson, and I'm here with Rachel Summers, and I'm with the International Left Hand Path Consortium. Rachel, thank you again.
Thank you.
I greatly appreciate you coming over.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.